The Holocaust is so immense that it can't be grasped in its entirety. Therefore, it has to be grasped in its specificity. Image by image, fact by fact, moment by moment, story by story.
I was afraid. I was aware that after I passed the gate, the only way will be to the gas chambers.
And what becomes interesting is to see the specific within its larger context.
If you seat 1,000 people in freight cars, and that means you need 25 freight cars.
If you go behind each photograph,
in the frame of the photographs, you can actually see the window of the frame and the bodies being burnt.
if you go behind each document,
there was not one sector in Germany which could say we weren't involved. It was in each and every aspect of society.
you get a much larger story.
The Nazis introduced a revolution to this world. They introduced a new concept, a new possibility. They introduced the possibility of wiping another people off the face of the earth.
How do we make the Holocaust relevant for the 21st century? It would be my deepest dream that the Holocaust were irrelevant.
I think the difficult thing for people to grapple with emotionally about the Holocaust is how could a group of people be so hated and seen as so dangerous for who they were that one had to come to the conclusion that they had to be eliminated from the face of the earth.
To understand the Holocaust, you have to understand 6 words. Definition, expropriation, concentration, Einsatzgruppen, deportation, death camps. Definition. Normally we define Jews on the basis of the identity they held, the traditions they practiced, the beliefs that they embody in their lives. The Germans defined the Jews biologically based on the religion of their grandparents.
When the regime came to power in January 1933, part of the Nazi movement, the aggressive radical part, the most extreme part, wanted to just expunge the Jews overnight. What they did was they began to legislate against the Jews. And rapidly, the Jews were kicked out of not only the civil service, but of areas of society where there were many Jews: education, universities, teachers, lawyers, doctors. The Jews became something that was not needed. The climax of this early period of legislation was the Nuremberg laws. The laws were there to determine officially, as the title said, citizenship in Germany. Who is a citizen and who is not? But the only definitions that were given of who is a citizen were definitions for who is not a citizen. And the only people defined as not citizens of Germany were Jews. Jews were forced to add the name Israel as a middle name for a man and Sarah as a middle name for a woman from the middle of 1938.
In other times in history, Jews could convert, they could hide themselves by assimilating within the host country. But under racial theory during the Nazi period, Jews were Jews because of the blood that was coursing through their veins. It didn't matter what was in their heart or in their mind, it mattered what was in their blood. So the ultimate extension of this theory was that if you wanted to rid Jews, you couldn't do it through conversion as they did during the Inquisition. You couldn't do it in any other way than to murder them.
There's this gigantic paper trail that goes right down to books for children in schools and popular films and all sorts of things that the Nazis did that didn't always relate directly to the Jews or might relate directly to the Jews, but were part of a comprehensive view of the world in which the Jews not only had no place, but the Jews were almost the anti-human, the anti-German, the anti-Aryan in this world, playing a negative role, and therefore they have a place. They have a place until ultimately they're not going to be there anymore.
Expropriation, the confiscation of Jewish wealth, the removal of Jewish property, the registration of all assets, the inability of Jews to own homes, property. After the Jews were sent off, people moved into their homes, took over their businesses. So on some level, the local populations understood these people were not coming back. They didn't ask why they're not coming back, but they sure as hell knew that they were not coming back.
One of the German artifacts that is most striking for me personally in our historical museum, it's a game called Juden raus, Jews out. It's a game that was created in Germany in 1936, the same year that Monopoly was created in the United States. And it was created just like Monopoly. It's a family game. It says on it, on the box, it's a game for people aged 8 to 99. So multi-generational families can sit down together at the coffee table, put the game down there and play. It's a game where you have a piece, you roll the dice, you move around the board, and you collect things, and the one who collects the most during the game wins the game. What are you collecting? You're collecting how many Jews you've evicted from your country.
I came across one document. It was just a letter of a non-Jewish woman writing to her mother-in-law about Reichskristallnacht, the November pogrom. At the beginning of the letter, you get the impression that she feels pity with the Jews because she says that what happened to them and that the Nazi mob came in and plundered the Jewish apartments and so on. But then the tone changes somehow, and she describes that from what was thrown from the Jewish apartments onto the street, she has realized how much the Jews possessed, and that they possessed things that the non-Jews didn't have or didn't have enough of. And then she says, now the Jews have to leave this place, and we also don't know where they go now, but probably they will be brought to a concentration camp until a definite solution will be found.
Zurück nach Polen. Das schwierigste Problem, vor das sich unsere Zivilverwaltung in den besetzten Gebieten gestellt sieht, ist die Judenfrage. Dieses ostjüdische Untermenschentum hat seit jeher Westeuropa das internationale Verbrechergesindel geliefert.
By the time the war began, in September of '39, there were not that many Jews left in Germany. And the desire to rid Europe of its Jews, really, that opportunity only came with conquest of territories where the Jews lived. And that began in Poland in September of 1939. It's not simply, not only lives that were lost, it was entire communities, it was a way of life in some cases.
The Holocaust was unimaginable. And it involved using all of the knowledge and the insight the 20th century humanity had in order to define, expropriate, concentrate, and ultimately murder and annihilate and destroy and also take possession of their wealth and their homes, an entire population. And even as great and as well-connected a man as Allen Dulles, who was then with the OSS and later became head of our CIA, Allen Dulles, when he was informed of the death camps, had a very interesting response. He said, so it's true. He had had all the details. He had every piece of information floating through American government intelligence, but he couldn't imagine that that was what was happening.
We have liberation photographs, we have uniforms, we have all sorts of things in our collection. I think the bullets are the only things that we have in our collection that I know of that did that. We have the actual thing that killed someone. 15,000 someones.
You can read about the Holocaust, you can study it, you can read the documents, but when you look at this object, the actual bullet that murdered an individual, everything else seems to disappear in a way, because that was the agent, that was the absolute cause of the death of an individual. And in that sense, it is an irreplaceable experience to look at that bullet and to contemplate what it did.
Einsatzgruppen, mobile killing units. This is men who slaughter wantonly entire villages, towns, communities, person by person, town by town, bullet by bullet, day by day. No concealment, blatant and brutal, and no effort to disguise what they were doing or what their intentions.